Oh, hello, everybody. You know what time it is, don't you? It is time for the bot signal, and I am your proud host today because I get to bring you super huge quality in the form of Tony Guarnaccia, who is.
Yes.
I didn't get it right, Tony. I didn't get it right. Guarnaccia going to give us who's going to talk to us about resilience in tough times and going to talk to us about how some of the big guys make it happen and how some of those skills translate for some of us. So without further ado, Tony, tell us who you are, where you come from, and why you do what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here today, and happy to share my story. So my story started when I was 12 years old. My parents had an Italian bakery, amazing bakers. Unfortunately, they didn't know what they didn't know about growing a business. And so when I was 12, the business failed and we lost everything. And so I found myself homeless, living with my parents in my oldest sister's basement. And so that was a challenging time. But like anything, you speak about resilience. My family is very resilient, so we bounced back. I went to college and I studied entrepreneurship, so I can learn. I'm looking back now at myself, my history. It's really to redeem the past, is what I discovered with myself. So I went to school, left there, and started an online bakery. And this time we were mailing cakes across the country, so we could take a cake, mail it anywhere in the world, and have it arrive perfectly. And the really cool thing was that we could put a photo on top of it. So the cake was a photo cake, and it won, when we launched, we won Best New Product at the New York Incentive Show. And so we worked with celebrities like Jay-Z, Jennifer Lopez, did cakes for IBM, Microsoft, so huge companies. And I thought I made it. Like, we had all this success. But then, unfortunately, that business failed as well. And so I learned that I didn't know what I didn't know either. And so that kind of took me on a journey. And my journey was to find who knows how to run a business. Because surely I didn't know what I was doing. And I thought, well, who does know? And it's really the best businesses in the world. So I kind of went on a journey to work with those companies. So 5 years later, from being homeless again, but this time, the second time, I was homeless with a baby on the way and newly married. And so I left that scenario. And 5 years later, I ended up having Google's Agency of the Year. And so just a huge transformation. During that time, I ended up working with Ford Motor Company, Google, Chevrolet, ADP, a whole bunch of top shelf companies. And then that kind of brought me back to where I am now. So I want to take what I learned and bring it to small businesses so that everyone has a chance, because 80% of small businesses fail today. And so that's kind of my whole journey and my life's mission where I am today. So kind of a long intro, but I thought it might help to fill in the pieces.
Context is very important, my friend. And thank you for filling in some of those pieces. I've known you for a little while. We were introduced through Charles Bird's class. And what is fascinating to me about what you do is that it's not a theoretical, this is what big companies do. And I think that if small businesses did this, they would be great. This is not, something that has been hatched together out of only experiences with big companies, which of course you've had. This is real life application of what big businesses do, because of course you're just like us. You're an entrepreneur who is making it out there during COVID and during civil unrest and during everything else. One of the things that fascinates me also about you is that how to build, kind of a bulletproof business type of a thing. That's one of the things that you talk about. Can you talk about that in terms of what we're all going through now?
Absolutely. So for a small business, and really any business in times like this, you really want to focus on two main things. Number one, what is your revenue and your profitability? And two, what is the cash flow? So really, how much money do you have and when is that money coming in? And so to put some real teeth into this in perspective, the first thing I did when this hit was I went through my expenses. I said, okay, what can I cut? What am I overspending on? What can I renegotiate? Buy something maybe in 3 months and get a discount. Buying things that are a lower cost alternative, things like that. So that was kind of how I maximize what's, because there's really two sides to the profitability: what's going out and what's coming in. So the first thing I did was cut what's going out, those expenses. And then the second part is what's coming in. So looking at, can I get business from past clients? Can I expand what I'm working with my current clients? Can I go into new markets? Can I make sure I get paid on time? So maybe get this great client, but are you getting paid in 30 days, 90 days? Or are you getting paid right away? Calling up those people and getting receivables. So that kind of speaks to profitability. And then the other part is, when is it coming in? The cash flow. So is it coming in now? Is it coming later? And so I kind of hit on that in regards to receivables, but cash flow works the same way. So now that you have some money to play with, profitability, you want to say, okay, how do I delay money going out, and how do I expedite money coming in? So that's really the two things. Really simple: the amount of money, the profitability, and when it's coming in, the what and the when.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, it's top of mind for many people, but I think that the problem with a lot of us is that we are only thinking about one thing: is get more clients, get more clients.
Right.
We're not thinking about, okay, like you said, let's call up all the old clients and make sure they're doing okay. Yeah. Let's look at some of the clients that I have right now, look at particularly the ones who are having some huge success, and say, hey, we could do more here.
Right. Correct.
There is tons of things that you can do to increase your cash flow, but we tend to be trained to think about just the one thing, which is, how do I get more people? How do I get more people?
Right.
And many of the things that you mentioned are actually faster acting. Yeah. If we're in the medicine aisle and we're deciding between fast acting and long lasting, cash flow is definitely a fast acting problem.
Correct.
So are there some things then that you would expand upon just for the audience? I have a diverse crowd of people, all of which are entrepreneurs. Anything that they can do, in addition to what you've kind of already mentioned for cash flow? Do you have like a favorite tactic that you use?
Yes. Yeah. So in my new book, I have a new book coming out in August, and I talk about a lot of these principles. It's called Small Steps to Grow Profits, but it really looks at 6 different factors for growth. The first one is the market you serve. So is there a different market you can be in than where you're in now? So so for instance, I had an agency as well. With that agency, a lot of the travel clients and events and things like that have dried up. So if in my position, I'm saying, okay, what other markets could be viable? And then the other thing you want to look at is your products and services. So factor number 2 is your offerings. So are there different products or services that you can sell? So if you're selling a product, say you have a course that's $2,000, is there a way to sell a $500 version for that? That's more palatable given these circumstances. Or on the flip side, some businesses are still doing great. Maybe you go for a higher price point, so there's all sorts of things. So the second thing I would look at is, what products and services do you have? How can you tailor what you have to the situation we're in today? So that's factor number 2. Value is, you should always be adding value. So now is a fantastic time to be building community, to be reaching out, to doing things like this. I don't even know how many live streams and podcasts, but building community, helping people. Because you may not make money off of it now, but in the future, you're depositing seeds. So that's value. And then the 4th factor is number. So we talked about number. I won't hit on that because we already talked about that. But size, factor number 5 is, how do you get people to spend more? So have a higher lifetime value. But the golden one is where I'm going to spend a little time, is number 6. So you said, what's something specifically we can do now? Well, loyalty, I gave you one golden nugget, which is go back to your past clients and go back to them. The other thing you want to do, which is the lowest hanging fruit, is referrals. So, okay, now that you have your past clients, ask them for referrals. When you go on a podcast, ask that person for referrals. When you pick up the phone, when you brush your teeth, anytime, ask for referrals. Constantly asking for referrals, because that's the easiest thing to do. So really get out there. Don't be shy. Add value to people. Call them. And then as part of that conversation, see if there's a fit. If there is, great. But even if there isn't, you can still get a win. Maybe get a referral, maybe get a joint venture partner, anything along those lines.
Yeah, that's true. And what you said about building relationships, I really find that to be kind of a focus of people. We, in our daily lives, running around doing our things, that's not something we've completely focused on. But now that we've all been inside 3 months, I know that I've had a few gatherings in the backyard just of friends so that I could see them again.
Right.
And I'm a hugger, so it's hard for me to not hug all of them. But relationships have come into focus in a way that they really haven't before. Yeah. And for me, it's allowed me to look at who are the people that I'm involved with. Do I know everything that they do? Yeah. Do I know everything that they can do? And how can I, not just get more people in the door, but how can I leverage my relationships? And that's something you speak about as well. Just being able to leverage people that and what they do. Are there any tactics you would recommend there? I know it seems like the slow game, but for me, it's not the slow game at all. It's the much faster way to get to work with people. Have you found that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the tactics I like is from a friend, Chris Winfield. And what he taught me is to kind of take the list, and how I applied it was I went through LinkedIn, made a list, and then kind of rank people in kind of their influence and their ability to help you and your ability to help them. So kind of looking at people and saying, okay, obviously we want to help everybody, but in terms of growing your own business, where do you start? Well, you start with people that could potentially help you and get the word out, that want to be your advocate. So some people might have great influence. Maybe a celebrity. They may not be inclined to help you. So maybe you need to know someone further down the tier that has both some level of influence and is able to help you. And so you want to kind of look through that. So that's exactly what I did. I went through all my LinkedIn contacts, thousands of them, and kind of looked at who would be best. And what I'm doing is I'm sharing the manifesto I wrote. So I have a book coming out. Before the book, I wrote a manifesto. And so all my friends, I'm saying the manifesto so they can give me some feedback, because I honestly want feedback. And, is the book good? Do you like what it is? And then hopefully that can spur discussion to lead to something else.
Yeah. That manifesto, I'm seriously interested in that, because one of the things that it does is it just helps us once again focus on who we are, what's really our message. A lot of people get lost in features and this is how I do things and all of that processes and stuff, which is great stuff. I could get hung up in that for days. Okay. But when you really focus on who you are, that helps you, I think, turn a corner mentally as well as, be able to get some feedback, as you were saying.
Yeah.
Is that something you're willing to share with us?
Absolutely. So I have a link to it. You can just go to the website, smallstepsmanifesto.com, Small Steps Manifesto. You can download it. There's no form or anything. It's free. So you can download it and get a better idea of what I stand behind. But really, it's about leverage. Because one of the things I notice is to get, and you mentioned this before, so it's kind of funny you mentioned leverage, but to grow, you really need to have some kind of leverage. And what do I mean by leverage? Well, the best companies and really anyone doing anything great, whether it's, going to the moon, climbing Mount Everest, anything like that, it requires 3 fundamental things, which creates what I call a flywheel effect. So to get a results flywheel, you need leverage in the form of time, effort, and money. And so success in anything really comes down to how effectively you manage your time, effort, and money relative to anyone else, relative to your best possible you. It really comes down to that. But how do you do that? Like a lot of people might say that, okay, this is great, but this is where the steps come into play. So there's really 3 fundamental things that have to happen. You have to know what steps to take, right? Because otherwise you might be going off the wrong trail. So the what steps tells you what you need to do. Then once you know the path you have to take, how do you implement that? Like, how do you actually do that? So how to take those steps. And then the third one, which is obvious, but still people don't do this, is actually to take the steps, like to take action. So you really need to know what to do. You need to know how to do it, and then you actually have to do it. Go figure.
That's so beautiful, isn't it? Sometimes I
Yeah.
do forget that step in
Yeah.
particular. Yeah. What kind of lays out the next path. One of the things that has been helping me lately, and I don't know, how set up you are on this front, but what's been helping me a lot is to draw things out, even if
Yeah.
it's a pencil and a napkin, to draw out the processes and the things that are going to be needed, the connections that are going to need to be made.
Yeah.
And then my dog might enter the picture. Yep, there he is. That's Ranger. Yeah, he has a bed right there. Everybody, that's his place. It's non-negotiable. Anyway, it's helping me to really draw stuff out. Do you have any favorite tools that you use to be able to take some of this stuff out of your head and then put it into action?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of my frustrations was there really wasn't a simple way to execute my vision of like how this works, how you create a flywheel, which is why I created the results loop. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but it's right here. So it's basically how you can create a one-page growth plan and have it. And what I like about it, which I haven't seen anywhere, is you can actually whiteboard it. Because I'm a huge whiteboarder. I like to, kind of like you, we could nerd out on this all day, but essentially, I whiteboard concepts and I kind of draw it out. And I was like, that's great, but I need a framework to put that in. So I created one, and it's portable. You can literally have it as a magnet, put it anywhere you want, and you can even put a logo on it. So that was kind of the compliment to the book, because the book tells you what to do and how to do it. It doesn't actually give you the tools, which is why I created the tool. And I said, this is how you can do it.
That's pretty amazing.
Thanks.
Because and here's what I really love and respect about you is that you've taken all of this massive experiences and truly the ups and downs that you've had make people like me trust you more.
Thank you so much.
You know what I mean? If you're a guy that has gone out there and at 6 years old has impressed all these major companies and done all these amazing things, and now you're going to come teach me, how do you know what it's like to be in my shoes? You don't.
No.
You don't. But if you have gone out there and mucked it up royally a couple of times, I want to hear from you. I want to know more, because we can't always, we cannot depend on the world to be a great place with opportunities just flying towards you every day. We have to know and embrace and accept that we're human. Sometimes we're gonna muck it up. And so what I love so much about you is that you bring to the table, yes, here's how to make it out of that experience. Here's how I made it out.
I think it's okay to be transparent. I mean, because I still make mistakes. Just ask anyone that works with me, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people hide behind perfectionism and say, look, I'm doing everything right. I still screw up things constantly. And so, but it's how you rebound and the resilience, especially now, like a lot of people, the average business doesn't, just like the average consumer, doesn't have more than a few weeks of money saved up. And so a lot of businesses are finding that fact now, it's coming out to the surface. So, I mean, the fact is no one has this down perfectly. And even the best entrepreneurs, Richard Branson, with his airline, he's struggling. So it's okay to fail is part of the lesson too. But how you bounce back is what makes all the difference in the world.
It makes all of the difference in the world. This won't be a surprise to you. This is my fourth business.
Yeah.
I mean, and every time I have learned major lessons. And I had my corporate job several years ago. It was a terrible job. My health suffered, my family suffered, but I had a stable job and I was going to keep it forever. And then, some things happened in the management and I was like, yeah, no, this isn't going to be for me. And, I took off on my own to do my own thing, this time being the time that actually worked. But what I want to tell people out there is, yeah, just what you said. It is okay to fail. It is about what you choose to do the next day.
Right.
And that can bring you right back up to where you were, or maybe it'll be a slower ride, but
even more further along. I mean, a lot of times what I found is the people that failed, when they come back stronger. So they're better.
Yeah. Well, and for me, I didn't start out this time doing bots. I started out doing technology coaching, as you know, and that brought me a certain level, and that was okay. But that level was a victory for me compared to where I'd been before.
Right.
So, having failure also makes us resilient, which is one of the things that you talk about a lot, is that resilience.
Yes, correct. Yeah, the failure, you learn things along the way, and kind of the lesson, the inspiration behind the book actually is my mother, her story. And so there's actually a new version of the manifesto that's coming out next week, and it tells her story. It adds a lot more stories to it. Cool. And her story is the inspiration behind small steps, because years ago in the late 30s and 40s and all through the 70s even, there was another epidemic going on. It was called polio. And so my mother contracted polio when she was just a baby, 9 months old, and she literally could not walk until she was 14. And so she was quarantined in basically for a whole childhood. And in addition, she had, back then they had iron lungs, which were ventilators. So it was a very similar situation to today, which is one of the inspirations for launching this book now, frankly. And so that's kind of how that story came about. But what she taught me was to take small steps. So you can never know exactly where you're going to be, but just get started on the path and keep going. And eventually you're going to get that flywheel effect we talked about. And she's one of the few that actually was able to walk. And so she took that and walked. And she still struggles today, because guess what? The problem hasn't gone away. I mean, there's still secondary effects to polio, but she still decides every day to take a step. And that's really the thing. So it's not like you just have a victory and you're done. Hey, I can just be on vacation all day. You always have to fight, and that's what resilience is about. It's like continuing going even in the face of opposition.
Yes, especially in the face of opposition.
Yes.
A long time ago, in company I used to be at, there was a guy there. He was a contractor. He flew in once a year and taught us AutoCAD stuff. His name was Michael. And Michael one day walked in and he said, you know how, because in that job, I got all kinds of drawings from all kinds of architects, and we had to make sense of that drawing and make a different drawing with the furniture in it. That was my job. He said, architects are going to hand you stuff that is completely unintelligible, not in the scale that you're working at. And, the units are off. Everything's off. They're going to do this all the time. Rather than hoping that next person isn't going to hand you something you have to decipher, why don't we write something right now that you push a button, all of the things set to your settings, and you can work immediately? How about we do that? Yeah. Changed my life, that guy. Yeah. Because what he was really saying was, let's not wait for the world to hand us either a milkshake or an empty banana peel, okay? Let's not wait for the world to hand us anything.
Correct.
Let's go forward with intention right now, and let's make it better.
Absolutely. No, that's very wise. Very wise saying.
Yeah. Well, any words of wisdom, anything to leave us with? We've let me sum up. We've got Tony's manifesto that you can go get at smallstepsmanifesto.com. I've got it in some of the comments here. We have got a lot of golden nuggets on how to stay resilient, how to profit, how to get that cash flow going in this atmosphere. and many other things as well. I can't believe it's only been a half an hour. This has been pretty packed full of knowledge. Do you have anything else to leave us with? Any final stuff for the audience?
Yeah, no, I would just say don't be afraid to take the next step. That small step. I mean, that's really probably the core message. And just know that people are at different stages. Some are struggling, some are ready to scale, and some are kind of just prancing along. But to get to the next step, you really have to evaluate where you're at. And so don't forget to focus on what needs to be done, because so many people go right to the how. My one takeaway for this would be, don't forget to think about what you need to do and why. The why is so important. Like, what's your purpose? So hopefully my mission came through loud and clear. And if it's not, I'll actually what it is to change businesses, right? To help them grow. And so my mission is to democratize marketing so that every business can have the same opportunity to grow that the large ones do. And so that's kind of what my mission is. And I want to reach 1 million businesses with this message by giving them that manifesto. So by downloading that manifesto, you're helping me accomplish my mission. And so the more people have it, the more we can spread the word, and the more change we can have, a positive change in this world. So thanks so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Tony, I'm so glad you came on the show. We'll have you on again in August when you are launching your book, because I think that everybody needs to have that in their hands.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You bet. Well, so that's it for me today, my friends. Tomorrow, join me on the Bot Signal once again at 10 o'clock a.m. Central. We're going to be doing Friday wins. Anything that you want to report to us about how you won this week out there, we want to hear it. We want to help you celebrate. So join me again, and thanks for coming today. As always, my friends, I will see you in a bot.